let's start with the Dodgers, right? Because you like to start with the panic mode and how they've really fallen apart to let the Padres jump back into this spot. What do you think?
I mean, it's a prolonged stretch of bad for them. I mean, you look at July 3rd, they had a 9-game lead in the NL West. Since then, they are 12-22. Do you know who has a 12-22 record since July 4th, along with the Dodgers? It's the Colorado Rockies. That's how the Dodgers have been playing. And I think the biggest thing right now, and it stood out in this series, especially the last two nights, on any given night, Dave Roberts doesn't really have a high leverage reliever to turn to hold leads. Blake Trinan hasn't looked right since coming back off the IL, and there are 6 high leverage guys on the injured list right now. And the last one was Brock Stewart, the one guy that they got for their bullpen. He's out now with shoulder inflammation, and obviously the natural question is, why didn't the Dodgers go do more? They were in on other high leverage guys. They weren't willing to give up their best prospects to get them. And that was with the thought that they were going to get a bunch of guys back. And they are. Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, Tanner Scott. Those guys should be back before the end of the month. The problem is that there's urgency right now. And over these next few weeks, nobody has any idea who's going to be closing games for the Dodgers, let alone bridging the gap to the 9th inning in the 7th and 8th. And when you couple that with an offense that has been better lately, but still not as good as it should be, what you get is this. And it's a club that hasn't really spiraled like this in years. And it's pretty insane to watch on a nightly basis, I'll be honest.
They don't have a closer, like you said, but there was a ton of closers available at the trade deadline. Yeah. Have you heard anything that the Dodgers were getting asked higher prices because everybody sees the Dodgers as, well, we want to win the World Series. If they're calling about our closer, we're going to ask more. We're going to do that. Like, is there any of that, or was it the Dodgers' lack of willingness to say, well, we need help, when reality was they've been drowning and they needed help at the trade deadline?
I think, Eric, it's more the latter. I think when you're a team that's trading away these big-time relievers, like, your focus is just to get the best return as possible. And I think that the interesting thing about the Dodgers, basically every trade deadline, is when you match up their farm system and the guys that they can give up because of the talent they have on the major league level, compared to all the other teams, they could beat out practically anybody at the trade deadline. The question always comes down to their willingness. And, their front office is constant, and they talk about this a lot. They're constantly, and they're no different, but they're constantly weighing the now versus the later. And it's a calibration that they have yet to fully figure out. And so you saw what they did this offseason. They were as aggressive as anybody. That was largely, and they said this often, because they didn't want to have to go out and buy at the trade deadline. But the other part of it too is what they did this offseason is spend money. They have money. They'll spend money. What they're not willing to do as much is give up young players for players that they feel are only going to give them maybe like a very minuscule advantage for the stretch run of the season. Now, you could definitely argue that, and it would be very valid. I'm just telling you that that's kind of their calculus this time of year. And so when they looked ahead, their thought was, okay, it looks bleak now, but look at who we have coming back. We're going to have Kopech and Yates and Tanner Scott, and and we'll just get Brock Stewart. He's been great against opposing right-handed hitters. He could fit in nicely. And that's great in theory. But I think when you look at it now, it's not only about how are they covering these next few weeks, but it's also a lot is going to have to go right for all these relievers coming back in order for them to show up as the strength that the front office thinks they will be. Yates and Scott haven't been good all year. Michael Kopech has made 8 appearances this season. I'm not saying those guys aren't going to be good. I'm just saying they can't afford any more hiccups. So the margin for error on this season it feels incredibly small right now.
Wait, hold up, Alden. I got to know this. They were supposed to go 162-0. They were supposed to be the greatest team ever assembled. And now you're saying they have a tiny margin for error. What changed? Because remember, this offseason, everyone was saying, oh, the Dodgers are unbeatable. They'll never lose. They're going to win everything. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Like, are the injuries that bad that they can't cover them? Because people said, oh, they have 10 starting pitchers and they have 25 relievers. What happened to all that? Yes, I know injuries, but the narrative has changed so quickly from the greatest team ever assembled to, holy crap, this team's not in first place.
AJ, that's the beauty of baseball, isn't it? That you never
But I
really
thought,
know going
but I
into the
thought every
year.
expert said, "Oh, it's so bad for baseball." Every fan, the Dodgers are like, see, you just never know.
And AJ, I think, and you could definitely speak to this, but I also think outside of just what baseball is, um, there's a reason why there hasn't been a repeat champion in Major League Baseball in 25 years. And it's not just the randomization of adding extra playoff rounds, which might be real too, but it's that when you're playing deep into October and sometimes November, um, there's a price to be paid. There's a price to be paid, especially with your pitching. And when you look at just when you take a step back from this season, look at the injuries that they've suffered in their bullpen. A bullpen that they rode really hard last October to win a championship. I think a lot of that has shown up. It's not the only reason why they are where they are right now. I mean, you look at like Freddie Freeman slumped for a while. Mookie Betts is not having the year that you would expect. Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, they just haven't been right. That's certainly part of it. The rotation early on was very injured. It is now healthy, but it was very injured early on in the year. That taxed the bullpen even more so. But, I mean, talk to the members of the 2023 Rangers and how winning the World Series spilled over into 2024. Talk to members of the current Dodgers about just the toll on the body, not just playing deep into October last year, but then opening up, remember, mid-March in Japan. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And it's hard. And I didn't think they were going to go 162-0, obviously. And I didn't even think that they might. I thought maybe they'll have a chance at setting the regular season wins record, but I knew that was unlikely. I thought they were as well set up to be a repeat champion as maybe anybody this century because of how they fortified that roster in the offseason. But it just goes to show how difficult winning back-to-back champions is.
Hey, we love ripping slab packs on Arena Club. I just ripped one in a Ruby pack. Those are fancy schmancy, Kip. And I pulled a Matt Shaw 2023 Bowman Draft Aqua Lunar Crater Refractor card. And guess what? Guess what? I got a little offer. You get the instant offer right away. Okay. So they're offering me $121 to sell it back, and then I can get a new slab pack. What do I do?
I want to see this thing. Hold on. Look at that. That's a beautiful card. You know what? I think that's a safe bet. I think it's going to make you a little bit of money. I think the more big league time he gets, I'd almost take the deal, though. I'm in it for the chase. I like opening more packs. I think that 121 can buy you a couple more slabs to open. And I think you keep chasing until you get something you really like. But that's the best part about it for me.
That's right. You can sell it back, $121, and then open up another slab pack. Use the code FOUL to receive 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase at arenaclub.com/foul.
Their starters don't go deep. And the Dodgers for years have not allowed their starters to go deep into games, especially in the postseason. And then the bullpen just slowly but surely gets worn down. And that's kind of what you're talking about. A lot of starting injuries, so they don't trust guys to go as deep, right? Then the bullpen gets used. Then you get the bullpen injuries. Is this just a combination of the philosophy of what the Dodgers have been for years and years, and now this is the year it's finally really kind of catching them?
I think that's certainly a valid point, AJ, and I would say that is an industry-wide issue where starters are not going deep, bullpens are being taxed, and I'm sure the Dodgers are guilty of that as well. What they will tell you as a counter is that they feel like every year they're going to be riding their starters in October, and they got to save them for that. I mean, look, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I think, is a good example. He's made every turn through the rotation, but his innings are very manageable, partly because he's part of a six-man rotation most of the time, partly because, to your point, AJ, he doesn't go super deep into games because they want him healthy for the stretch run. I think that's part of it, but I'll go back to what I said before. I think the bigger part of why that bullpen was taxed is because they were just really hurt. I mean, the Dodgers got to a point early in the year, up until like July, they were staging bullpen games twice a week. And they were also suffering injuries to their bullpen, a bullpen that, as I said, had been taxed in October. It's just not sustainable. And Dodgers. I haven't checked recently, but I'm almost certain I'm correct that Dodgers relievers lead the major leagues in innings. They've led the major leagues in innings basically all year. And yes, that could be a function of where the game is going with the usage of starting pitching. But I think it's more pronounced for them that they've just had a lot of pitching injuries. And by the way, it's a second consecutive year in which they've had a lot of pitching injuries.
All right, I got one more Dodgers cue for you. Is there a team that needs to have the wild card bye, like miss the wild card round more than the Dodgers? A team that they've been mitigating injuries. You even talked about Yamamoto. Like, another extra round does not set the Dodgers up very well. So they almost have to win the division, no?
I think you're right about that, Eric. And I think the thing about the Dodgers, and we've seen this in recent years, and maybe that's not the case this year because they might be a little bit more flawed, but the Dodgers annually are deeper than any team in baseball, right? Like when you look at the totality of like a 40-man roster, a 26-man roster, they have the most depth. And so the thought with the Dodgers has been, if you're going to beat them, you got to beat them in smaller sample sizes, right? Look at what the Diamondbacks and the Padres did in back-to-back years in the division series. If it's in the wild card round, probably even better. When you stretch to a 7-game series against them, usually their depth can really show up, and they can get the better of you. I mean, we saw that during the 2020 COVID playoffs, right? When there were no days off, like that was an advantage for them because they were deeper than the teams that they faced. And there was a huge narrative about the Dodgers when they lost those back-to-back division series to Diamondbacks and Padres that like maybe they just need to play the wild card round. And the thought with them was always, no. We'd rather have the days off. We would rather set our pitching staff. I know it hasn't gone well, but we would much rather prefer to get the bye. And that's why, and honestly, that's why I like this playoff format. Like there's a real incentive to get one of those top 2 seeds in each league because teams see it as an advantage. And I think the Dodgers are foremost among them.
And then we have the Padres. We only got a minute left here, but take everything that you just said and then reverse it, right? Hey, the Dodgers need a closer. The Padres have 5 of them.
Yeah. It's funny because the Dodgers' strength is in their rotation. I think it's a legitimate strength too. I mean, when you go into a playoff series and you could run out Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, and Ohtani with Kershaw also there, that's huge. And the Padres' strength is in their bullpen. It's 5 guys, maybe 6, they could cut games in half in the playoffs. And that's been their formula the last 2 years with A.J. Preller, right? Last year, he went out and got Tanner Scott and Jason Adam to a bullpen that didn't need reinforcing. And he sees that as a clear pathway to win a World Series. But so when you look at last year with the Padres, they didn't really round into form until the last 2 months of the season. And it was right after the trade deadline. A.J. Preller sort of completed that roster, and they became one of the deepest, most menacing teams in the sport, and that's what they are right now. Yu Darvish coming back and being effective is huge for them. Michael King rejoining their rotation, even though his return was spotty, huge for them, right? Like the fact that they could run, now they have 4 guys that they could run in the playoffs, but you couple it with that bullpen and a lineup that now, at least in my view, looks as deep as it did last year with Freddie Fermin and Ramon Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn. Like that team is as good as last year's team, and I thought last year's team was the best team in baseball going into the playoffs.
Yep. Hey, they finished basically 1 win short. They would have dusted the Yankees in the World Series. Almost everybody thinks that. Alden, you're the man. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, give Alden a follow. He's got to go. He's got another show.
I know. Yep. Did the Dodgers or Padres win the West? One word answer. Dodgers or Padres win the West?
At this point, I'm going Padres.
There you go.